I want to first of all introduce Sergio. Sergio is a native of Mexico City, but he's lived in the DFW area for how long? Like decades and decades, right?
Yeah, like 37 years.
Right.
Gee.
And he's a realtor and a property developer in the DFW area, but he also is able to, he's a realtor in Mexico as well. So
Yes.
that's why he's here to help us figure out if we want to go to Mexico, how do we do that? How do we make that happen? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be, I've got some questions that I want to ask Sergio.
Yes.
And I would ask you to put your questions in the chat. And I may take them as we go, or I may wait till the end, but feel free to put them in at any time. And first of all, I just want to say I would love to be on one of those beaches right now. And really, that would be amazing. So Sergio, thank you so much
My pleasure.
for being here. I mean, I guess the first question really is just, is it realistic to relocate to Mexico? It sounds wonderful. So tell me about the process. Tell me anything you want to share about relocating to Mexico.
Yes, well, I thank you for the invitation. Yeah, I have lived over 35 years in Dallas, in the Dallas area, and I recently relocated to Mexico. I spent 1 year over there. After the pandemic, I just wanted to take it easier, and I really enjoy it. Um, well, there's over 1 million Americans living right now, right there. So that tells you that
That's a lot. Yeah.
yeah, we are not like trailblazers here. So it's something that a lot of people have done, and I have many friends that live Americans living in Mexico, and they were the ones pushing me to move to Mexico.
Oh, interesting. Because,
Yes.
I think a lot of Americans don't really understand Mexico. I mean, I have to admit, having lived in Europe for 20 years before coming back 10 years ago to the States, I hadn't realized how advanced Mexico was and what a wealthy country it is compared to what it was like, when I went last. And
30 years ago, exactly.
yes, my knowledge was very limited. And I think that a lot of Americans maybe still have misunderstandings of what it's like. And the question I always hear is it safe? I think everything I hear is it is very safe. Like, obviously, you have to know where you're going. And there are some areas you want to avoid, but pretty much anywhere you would want to live would be safe. So, can you talk about that?
Yes, definitely. I will start by a conversation that I had with some friends of mine in Mexico City when they realized that I was living in Texas. To my surprise, they were worried.
I'm not surprised.
So they said, like, I would never live in Texas with all those kids being shot at schools and people having guns all over and people being harassed by policemen all the time. So, you know, we can have our own perspective of the other country based upon what we are fed into our
Yes.
news. You always hear, that there's drug cartels and drugs,
Yeah.
and I mean, what else can you think about it? And the same thing, Mexicans thinking about Americans, shootings and a lot of hate, and so we get the picture. I think it's safe as any other city can be. There's a street smartness that we can follow. You cannot be at 2 in the morning in a rough neighborhood anywhere in the world.
Right.
So you be smart, mind your own business and don't do stupid things, and we'll be okay. There's dangers all over the world.
Yes, indeed, indeed. Um, so, so let's start at the top. A lot of people are scrambling to figure out where they can go, where they will feel safe, because I think, like probably most people on this call, I don't feel safe here in Texas, at least.
Mhm.
And probably any red states, generally, people don't feel safe. So our options are to relocate to a blue state or leave the country. I personally feel like having a place in another country is a lot safer. I don't think any place in the world is safe as long as Donald Trump is president. But I think that, but I feel safer not being in Texas for sure. So can you explain the process? Like, how does an American get to go to Mexico, and how can they live there? How can they afford to live there?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I uh, I have a link to a video. I think it's the same people that created the video that you just showed us, where it tells you city by city the cost of living.
Oh,
And
nice. You want to pop it in the chat so people
it's,
can
yes,
copy it?
if I if I know how to do that.
So
It's,
you see the little chat function at the bottom. There's a
okay,
little thing. You can just open that up, just double click on it and paste. And then everybody can watch that. Um,
okay. Now I'm
yeah,
here on the chat.
yeah.
Okay, tap here. Okay, now how I do it from okay. Um,
Did you figure it out? You just
no,
paste.
because I have my computer on and the meeting
Okay.
on my telephone.
You know what? I can share it with everybody
Yes,
after
let's do that
all.
at the end.
I will
But
share all the links with everybody
but
in any way. So
in some it goes from the 10 best cities to live as a foreigner in
uh
Mexico, and it goes from the most expensive to the cheapest.
okay.
So they explain what is the an average cost of living. Uh, and it varies from $2,000 a month per couple,
Oh, for couple, that's cheap. Yeah.
yes, to 3,200, the most expensive
Which
city.
is still cheap. Yeah.
I mean, it's for two people. I think I mentioned that I was living in Mexico. Uh, the whole 2023, I lived there. And I was living in a gated community in a house, three-bedroom house with, police, security, and everything. I was paying close to $400 a month just
Wow.
by myself. And I have a
That's so cheap.
garage. I had a backyard. I mean, not the biggest.
And what
Uh,
city were you in?
this was Aguascalientes.
Okay.
Aguascalientes is considered the Bajío area. The Bajío area is right in the center of the country, on top of the mountains. That's where you have San Miguel de Allende,
Ah,
Guanajuato, Querétaro, and it is dry. I mean, it rains a lot, but the climate is dry. It's not desert. But if you've ever been in San Miguel de Allende, it's the same weather. San Miguel de Allende, Querétaro, Guanajuato.
I've always wanted to go there. I've never been, but it looks amazing. It
Well,
looks really amazing. Yeah.
this is a good time to go.
Of course, I'm more attracted to the beaches though, honestly. I think the beaches look amazing too. Um,
Yeah, well, I'm not into beaches.
okay.
It's too hot in December.
Right. And tourists, yeah. And so so it sounds like you can buy or rent, but I think there are some restrictions on Americans buying
Yes,
properties. So
I'm
tell us
gonna go
about
there.
that. Yeah.
I'm gonna send you a link that you can share later on. And I just pulled a random house in San Miguel de Allende. A brand new house, it will cost you somewhere around between $200,000 to $300,000. A three-bedroom house, brick and in concrete. We don't make houses of,
Wood.
sticks.
Yeah.
They're made of concrete, so they do well on hurricanes. And anyway, so I'll send you a link. It's about 200 to $300,000 a
So
house.
about half the price of the DFW area, would you say?
The average here in DFW will be about $350,000.
So not half, a third less.
Yes, but I'm talking about these are really nice houses in
Okay.
really nice neighborhoods.
Okay. All right.
Not on the skirts of the FW.
Okay.
No, this is really nice houses.
Okay.
So the market is a lot cheaper. Now, the big advantage here is that here in Texas, especially, people get pushed out of their houses
The
every
property
time
tax.
they raise the taxes. The
Yeah.
property taxes get raised every year. So when you're in a fixed income, you have to move out of your house because you cannot
Yeah.
afford the taxes anymore.
For sure.
Well, that doesn't happen in Mexico.
Okay.
you pay a couple $100 on property taxes a year. And it doesn't, it hasn't changed ever. And so
Okay,
that's one thing. What people, they live in a house and they die in that house because you
because they can
can,
afford to keep to stay
they can
there.
afford.
Okay,
Yes, it's so cheap.
fantastic. And um, but there is something funny about owning a house unless you're a Mexican, right? There's
No, no, that's not true.
okay,
You can still buy a house, and I have a lot of friends that buy a house through a trust. It's called a fideicomiso. Um, it's the same thing as you have in a trust. It's just you own the trust, you own the property.
okay.
So you can buy a property anywhere in Mexico.
Okay, fantastic. That's great news. And are there what about the taxation? I don't expect you to be an expert on taxation, but some people are worried that if they go there with their Social Security payments to live on that, that they also have to pay a lot of taxes on income. Is that a problem there?
Well, like I'm an American too, and the money that I made in Mexico, I have to pay taxes in Mexico. And yes, there is um, if you make money in Mexico, you're gonna pay taxes in Mexico, and you might have to pay taxes in America too.
Okay.
Um, so,
So
but
get a good advisor. It sounds like
yes,
have a good
but
tax lawyer
your
even. Yeah.
if you're living of your retirement, that's not an income. So
Okay.
Mexico shouldn't tax you on that. You're not making
Okay.
money.
And I think you had said to me earlier that people can contact you if they want to find a lawyer
Yes.
in Mexico who can help them. And how should they contact you?
Um, well, my name is Sergio Pavon. Just search for Sergio Pavon and you'll find me anywhere. I'm a realtor here.
Okay,
Um,
I can publicize it if you're comfortable with that as
publicize it.
well.
You can
Yeah.
find me on
Okay.
Facebook, on anywhere.
Okay. All right, great.
If I want to hide, it's going to be hard.
Right. You want people to find you because you're a realtor. Yeah.
Yes.
So, do you specialize in a certain area or can you help people who want to
I
live in?
can help people all over the country, but I specialize in the Bajío area, which is Querétaro, San Miguel de Allende, Guanajuato, Aguascalientes, and Mexico City. I do have partners in the Mayan Riviera. I have partners in Puerto Vallarta, which is on the Pacific.
Mhm.
And I have partners in Oaxaca.
Oh, that's supposed to be amazing. Everyone tells me
Oh
Oaxaca
my
is
goodness,
amazing.
that's my
Amazing
favorite
food.
place.
Yeah.
Yes, Oaxaca is just beautiful.
And is
And
it expensive? Is it the most expensive place to live or one
no,
of?
the most expensive place is Baja.
Okay. Oh, right. Because it's so close to
Yes, and no,
California.
I don't have. I have a friend of mine that lives there, but I haven't done business in Baja California at all.
And so if I wanted to move there and my Spanish is not very good, how can I live? Can I live in Mexico without speaking good Spanish?
I have a friend that she just passed away last November.
Oh,
She
I'm sorry.
was 90 years old and she didn't speak a word of Spanish. And she lived there since the early 70s.
So she was able to create a
She was
community of
able,
English speakers.
it's like learning a foreign language is mandatory in public schools in Mexico. It's in the constitution. So a lot of people, not that everybody speaks English, but everybody can understand, and people are very helpful.
Which is brings me to we have a couple of questions in the chat that might be good to bring in right now. So what's the best area if you've got children, and what's the education like? The education system, like would they need to go to a private school or would they go to the public school? How would it work?
Well, most of my friends don't send kids to public schools. Most of the people that I know, I mean, doesn't have to do with money. It's just for some reason, everybody sends their kids to public school.
The
Um,
public or private?
I mean, private schools.
Private schools.
Um,
That's what I
yeah.
thought. Yeah. It's
and
like
and
that in many countries in the
yes,
world.
and
Yeah.
they learn English since pre-K. So and there are great schools in Mexico. um, great universities too, and like whatever degree you made in Mexico, it doesn't matter. Is valid, worldwide.
And Stuart asked, is there a best area for families and children, or is any place basically good for families and children?
Well, the bigger the city, the more options you're gonna have.
Right.
Like like one of my favorite places will be Huatulco in Oaxaca, and the other one will be San Miguel de Allende. But those places are
Beautiful.
more for older couples, older people,
Retirees.
retirees.
Yeah. Pensioners.
Yes, and there's no many kids. For that, I will always go to a bigger city where they have more options, more universities, more diversity, and Mexico City is like the number one spot to go.
I've seen some videos of Americans who have moved to Mexico City and they look like they're just having a blast. And it's
Oh,
not,
Mexico. Well, that's where
it
I'm
looks
from.
amazing. Yeah,
It's,
it looks amazing, really amazing.
and
So basically education is good, but you probably will have to send your kids to a private school. Which is pretty normal, which is pretty normal in most countries around the world, I think. That's been my
well,
experience.
I send my kids to private schools here in Texas.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Now another question was, the craziness that's happening towards Mexico from Trump that started 8 years ago or before that. Is that having any negative impact on Americans who want to live there? Um, you know, uh, I mean, if I had, I mean, I worry that people might think we're all like Trump if we go there. Do they know that we're not? That's why we're there.
It's like sometimes I'm amazed because people really don't care.
Okay. They're
It's
not
like,
political.
no,
Yeah.
they don't follow. They are not obsessed
Like we
as
are. And
as
especially
we
we
are.
probably in this group.
They
We,
just said they just think, well, it's the fat guy, the loud mouth, and that's
yeah.
they don't know anything, and they don't care really. No, I never heard any negativity. Only, the deep thinkers, my friends that are very cultural and very political, they are the ones. But usually, most people don't care.
So there's a question in the chat, which was maybe good as well to discuss. If you are renting or you were renting in 2023 and it was sounded very inexpensive and wonderful. What about for expats? How do they find a rental? Would they also go through a realtor to find a rental? Um,
Yes.
and
You,
are they allowed? Is it a problem to
no,
just
it's not a problem. I actually rented my house as a foreigner. I needed to provide for a Mexican, you need to provide somebody that owns real estate,
Mhm.
and he's going to, uh, like, what's the word that I'm looking for? He's going to be the security. But if you don't have anybody, you just give them 2 months in advance for rent, which I
Okay,
don't
a
think is a problem.
deposit.
Anybody can rent. There is no
The
restrictions on
rents
that.
sound very cheap for what you're getting as well.
Oh, the rents are extremely cheap. Even in Mexico City, I was talking to my friend that lives in Mexico City, in one of the nicest neighborhoods in Mexico City. Look for Santa Fe. Search for Santa Fe in Mexico City, and you can't believe you are in Mexico. I mean, it looks like you are in a first world country. It's like amazingly beautiful. Golf courses left and right, beautiful houses. And my friend was telling me that she was paying um, 15 $1,500 in a high-rise building in that neighborhood for a two-bedroom apartment,
Right.
and that's like high. So it's very affordable.
And what is the hardest part about emigrating to Mexico? What has been surprising to you having lived so long in the US? I mean, I know you're a little bit special case because you're from when you're gone 30 years. I know me being gone 20 years. I came back, I was like, these people are crazy. Like, what happened to the country, you know? So I'm sure you have some things like that too.
Oh, definitely. Even me, that I travel a lot to Mexico, that I visit Mexico all the time. Moving back there, it was like a little because I was expecting that I would have Walmart and Costco all the time,
Oh,
which
Walmart's in Mexico, right?
yes, we do, but it's not the Walmart in Dallas or Plano, you know.
Yeah.
So you're looking for those special towels or sheets, you're gonna have a hard time. I'm
So
just telling
import
you.
your own. Which reminds me, so I think we talked about this, but you can't go there and expect to work, right? So you really only can go if you have enough money to live on. So you have income. You can be a digital nomad, I assume. You can still,
Most people are digital nomads.
so you
That's
can
correct.
work still if you have a client or clients that allow you to work over Zoom. You could work there and live there. But I understand the immigration process is very simple as long as you don't plan to work, basically.
Yes, the first is just start with a 6 month visa, a tourist visa
Mhm.
that you can extend. And after that, you can apply for a temporary residency after 6 months. And you might be as a temporary resident from 2 to 6 years. So after 2 years, you can apply for a permanent residency,
Okay,
and
that's pretty
and
fast.
and the requirements are not that extreme. I I think it was you need to show like you have a steady income of like $2,000 a month to give you the temporary residency. Things might have changed. I mean,
That's
uh,
for pensioners or passive income,
yes,
passive investors, or digital nomads. Yeah,
exactly. And I know of cases of Americans moving to Mexico and finding jobs as English teachers.
yeah.
I remember my English teacher was from America. So, but there's just very few jobs. I mean,
Very few jobs. So Stuart's asking about working in the US from, yes, that's digital nomad, Stuart. When you work in the US, so your clients are not in Mexico, you don't have an office in Mexico where people are coming to see you, and the income you're earning is in the US. That's called being a digital nomad. And most countries in the world will let you do that. And most countries have a digital nomad visa that varies. Income is like 3,000 a month, usually on average in Europe. It's like 3,000 a month. And nobody really cares because you're not taking money out of the system. And you're not keeping somebody else from getting a job, basically. Now, on a positive note, you can't find the sheets and towels you like, but what's the best thing about living in Mexico from your perspective?
well, number one is the cost of living. Uh, Number two is how relaxed the culture is. Even in Mexico City, where things are going at a faster level, you still find people very laid back. Very, we Mexicans, we like to, enjoy ourselves, have fun, eat and drink and party. And that's pretty much it all over the country.
That sounds wonderful. I'll take that.
Yeah, anytime.
And we're getting some very specific questions that maybe are best left for an immigration attorney.
Mhm.
But Sergio did say earlier, if you want an immigration attorney, which he does recommend you get
Yeah, I do
before you
recommend.
invest heavily in Mexico and move your whole family down there, he will help you find one. He knows people. Um, and actually, but I did just see a question pop up that we absolutely need to discuss. My experience is that America has the worst healthcare in the entire world.
That's a great
And
question.
it's incredibly expensive, and Americans have no idea how badly they're being screwed over by insurance companies. I mean, I am just shocked at how expensive it is even to be healthy in this country. And I know nothing about the Mexican healthcare system, but can you talk about insurance and healthcare? If you're not a Mexican citizen, what if you're just a resident, maybe a temporary resident, or you have temporary residency or permanent residency? What happens in terms of your health care?
Okay, well, all these cities that are mentioned in the video, where expats are living in Mexico, they all have good hospitals and good medical care. Mexicans in general, they have almost free medical service through their jobs. Either you work for the government, you get almost free medical attention. For us that we don't work there and we don't make money there, we have to go to private hospitalization. I'm going to tell you an example of my friend that lives in San Miguel de Allende. She was 85, 80 something, and she fell and broke her bone on her collar.
Oh, wow.
She was
Horrible.
taken to on an in an ambulance that cost her probably like $150 both ways.
Instead of 1,500 or more for
Yeah.
ambulance here for five
And
minutes.
she had two microsurgeries at the hospital. The whole bill for this lady on the neck, microsurgery, two surgeons, the whole bill, she paid it with a credit card. I think the whole thing cost her like $15,000, and that was like outrageously expensive. Um,
But can you get insurance if you
you
can't
can get
put
insurance, and
$1,000 bill? Could you get into an
yes,
insurance policy that would cover for things like that?
yes, there is a lot of insurance. It's not cheap. And you will hear it through many expats living in Mexico. There's insurance, but it's expensive. And they, from what I heard, is that I rather pay it because
So
it's
it's
not that.
self-insured. So
Yes,
everybody self-insures, but it's
yes.
affordable. It's not crazy
It's
prices.
not crazy. It's not
Right.
crazy.
Okay, great. Okay, fabulous. There are some questions from some about whether the safety for somebody who is effeminate and gay. Um,
Yes.
I mean, I feel like every place in the world is more advanced than America on this issue, but I could be wrong.
No, well, at least in Mexico, when I moved to the States back in the 80s, I was like really surprised how um, what's the word that I'm looking for?
Backward.
Um, yes, closed-minded, how unopen they were about people's sexuality, and I'm talking about Mexico City. Mexico City
Right.
is we're 22 million people. There is a lot of schools and a lot of education. Um, you get
It's the biggest
lost.
city in the world, I think, isn't it? Or
One of
Tokyo?
the biggest cities in the
One of
world.
the very largest, yeah.
It's not the largest, but it's larger than New York.
Yeah.
And no, people don't have time for that. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. We shouldn't have
we're
time.
very open. We're
Yeah.
very, very open to that. Let me tell you what, one of the biggest superstar singers in Mexico, he was openly gay. Nobody ever say anything about it. He was still loved and respected. And so
Oh, that's
no,
fantastic.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a problem.
I asked the question more generally of you, like, would Americans find it easy to make friends? But there's some questions in the chat specifically about senior people who are older. Like, how would they make friends? Because you don't have kids in school who you meet the kids,
Yeah.
friends, parents. So how would older people make friends in Mexico?
Well, you have no idea how many friends I made, sitting on a bench in when I'm in Mexico, like nowadays. Well, I don't consider myself very old either, but people are very friendly in Mexico. You don't know a stranger in Mexico, and there are social services provided by the federal government where they have a lot of events for seniors, tons of events like yoga classes, theater. They do traveling, you know, a social service that the government does. Actually, this new government that we have nowadays, they even give money to all elder people. Besides whatever pension they have, they provide as financial assistance to everybody that is above 65 or something. That just gives you an idea of how the government in Mexico worries about elder people. And the culture in my country is like you don't send your grandparents to an hospice when they get old. It's like that's
They
like,
stay with the family.
oh yeah, that doesn't happen often.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is a little bit of a unusual question. I didn't know about this, but there's some question about Mexico City running out of water. Have you heard of something about that?
Well, not just Mexico City. You hear that noise,
World.
like, I mean, that noise, that news all over the world. We are
Yes,
running
that's
out of
true.
water
We are running out of water.
all
Yes.
over the world, and
Yeah.
also the population in the world is decreasing. I mean, the population is shrinking.
Yes.
That's for sure.
Yes. So maybe that solves the problem.
Well, there's not a quick solution to that. Um, there's not a quick solution to that, but the water,
Any,
we're
but
running out of water
anywhere. Yeah.
everywhere.
Everywhere. Absolutely. Yeah. I know that from my work actually, but and I have been telling people that I think it's perfectly safe to drive from Texas to Mexico. If you wanted to get a van, take your stuff down there, you go on the toll road and you stay on the toll road to wherever you're going. That's what I've been told, but maybe you can talk from actual
Um,
experience. So,
well, yeah, 2023, I live in Mexico, in Aguascalientes, and I was coming back and forth to Texas, bringing my towels and my sheets. Uh,
and you always drove.
and I always drove, and I was driving in areas that my family will say, don't drive that highway, that's very dangerous. And I drove it all the time. I never saw anything. From my experience, I had a flat tire in the middle of the road. I was coming down a mountain, a very high mountain,
Oh,
and I
yikes.
got a flat. And I was about to get my spare tire where they call green angels.
Oh,
So
yeah, like the AAA. Yeah.
yeah, but these are provided by the government. They come and help you, and they help me to replace the tire. They didn't charge me a penny. I tip him, of course, and they're very courteous and right. I mean, within what 30 minutes, the guy showed up. So it's very safe. It was safe for me, but I don't drive at night. Once it gets dark, I plan my route. I let everybody know where I am,
Mm,
and I know where I'm gonna get gasoline, and I know where I'm gonna stay overnight. But as soon as the sun starts going down, I stop driving. I don't drive at night.
yeah. Okay. That's it sounds safe to me if as long as you don't do stupid stuff, basically. It's
Common sense is always
yeah,
the
common
key.
sense. And that's true anywhere. Um, I
Oh,
actually don't feel
don't
very
don't
safe in tech.
don't don't get your jewelry,
Yeah.
your Rolex,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
those kind of things.
Right. Obvious things. Yeah. Um, Okay, so now one of the reasons that Americans sometimes hesitate to emigrate and they say, I really want to get out. I'm worried, I'm afraid, but I have children and grandchildren who can't go anywhere. So what would you say to them about Mexico? It seems like it might be a little easier with Mexico because they're in the same time zone. It's more, they
Yes.
the, what's your experience been with that? Because I think you have children, maybe grandchildren as well.
Yeah, well, I don't have grandchildren yet, but my children, they love Mexico. Um, uh, you know, uh, uh, Mexico is 2.5 hours away, Mexico City. And all the other towns that I'm telling you is about between 2 to 2.5 hours
By
away
flight, by
by
flight.
flight. And sometimes my flight cost me 250, $300, round trip. And Mexico, my kids, I remember my kids loving going to Mexico City and going to the tianguis, and tianguis is like a flea market, and they come with the products. They come to your neighborhood, and they close the street, and they have like a flea market, like a farmer's market, and then they will have fruits and candies and all your vegetables and meat, and you do your shopping there. My kids love that. Love the
Yeah,
fact that
I love that.
we can go to the beach driving like 2.5 hours. Uh, either way, the Pacific of the Gulf of Mexico. Well, Gulf of Mexico, maybe 3.5 hours. And
Okay. But still, that's very doable. And, like you said, I mean, who doesn't want to go visit a beach for the summer or
yeah,
whatever?
yeah,
I mean,
and all the towns in the center part of Mexico, they're very close. You drive 30 minutes, 45 minutes away, and instead of finding Waco, you find this little colonial town, that have a special food and special candies. And
oh,
uh,
Mexican food is so amazing, isn't it? I mean,
you know,
it's seen as one of the great cuisines of the world, so.
well, that's why we're kind of chubby over there.
We're chubby
We,
here. We don't have good food here, so.
we eat a lot.
Um, so one of the issues that people are putting in the chat and I'm dealing with now, is getting pets abroad.
Okay.
It's horrible with flying. My dogs will be in big crates for at least probably 12, 15 hours. They're going to fly 10 hours, but by the time they get boarded, they wait, they take off, they get taken off the flight. And it's very expensive, not only to buy their space and cargo
Mhm.
in the hold, but also to get a passport for them so that they can be certain that they don't have rabies, which is the main concern in Europe. But what is it like to bring a pet to Mexico?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't have much experience with that, because I never traveled with my only pet I had, and no, so I am fortunately I can't tell you much about it. I don't have experience about it.
Okay. I think that's maybe a quick Google to see.
Yeah,
But I think my guess is you probably need proof that they're vaccinated.
like any other country will do.
Yeah, exactly. So if you ask about Bark Air, that's expensive. Like I'm not doing any of that. I'm doing just the pet passport and the seat on or the space and hold, and it's like $5,000 cheaper. So, yeah. And I think, the pets we might need to do a special call on pets in general, but they're a challenge depending on where you're going.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
be certain that there is plenty of help, veterinarians, and I
Yeah.
don't see any difference between Mexico and United States about taking care of pets.
Well, I'm sure that it's less commercial. Like I feel here, like every kind of service provider in the healthcare region, I'm going to go ranting again, is like just having their hand out all the time for lots and lots of money. And true for vets for sure, but also for doctors and dentists and everybody. I feel like it's so freaking commercial. And that has not been my experience. And in other countries, I feel like the service providers in the healthcare area are much more altruistic, and they're not trying to buy five houses or whatever. So, and the insurance system, but also for pets, I think it's just much more affordable in most places to have
Well, in
pets.
America, healthcare is a business.
Yes.
It's not social service. It's a
Yes. Yes, absolutely it is. Yes. And we're the victims. Um, And also just we want to know about resources, but you've provided me a list of resources, and I will post those on Facebook for anybody who wants them. So we'll get to those. So anybody who's seriously considering moving to Mexico or even just fantasizing it for a bit, you can click on those links and get information. I'll post them right after the
perfect.
um,
Perfect.
I was personally very excited to see that Mexico elected a climate scientist and a woman as president. What does that tell us about? Well, it obviously tells us you're much more progressive in Mexico than we. But can you tell us about the anything we need to know about or be concerned about with the politics in Mexico?
Well, one of the biggest differences between Mexico and United States is that we don't have two parties like uh, like um, like here. So there's more variety on that.
Is it a parliamentary
It's,
system?
it's just the same. We
Yeah.
we have federal government, state government, and there's parliament. both levels, federal and state level. And the biggest thing is that in Mexico, we don't have race. The concept of you being part of a race does not exist. Was
Okay.
this there's difference in color of your skin? Yes, there is a difference, but we don't perceive ourselves as race. You
Well, the
might have to,
history of white supremacy
yes, so we
is
don't have that
you
problem.
didn't have slavery, or at least not as late. I mean,
We
that's
we
the reason
had
Texas exists, is because Mexico didn't want slavery, and the Americans who were
exactly.
wanted to continue slavery. So I think that makes a big difference for a lot of people. And obviously, being Latino is obviously not a big deal at all because everybody's Latino, right? So
To be honest, when I moved to the States, then I realized that some of my friends were kind of like black.
racist.
I didn't know that. I was,
Yeah,
oh my goodness, this guy was black. So no, the race has never been used to divide and to get more votes like it is here.
yeah.
Uh, Another thing that I want to add is that Mexico, you cannot own a gun.
Oh,
It's
thank
very,
you.
very, very, very hard to own a gun. So those two main things that in America we used to get more votes is like, let's keep the guns and let's hate the immigrants because they cause all these problems. We don't
Yeah,
have that issue
yeah.
in Mexico.
Yeah,
Uh,
and also because you probably don't have a growing uh evangelical white supremacist movement like you have in the States, which is
no,
taken over the Republican
no,
Party.
no. Catholicism is, I
Yeah.
don't know, 80, 90% at least.
Okay. Yeah,
So
excellent.
no, we don't have.
Okay. Now, I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to post the resources that you provided in the link with that. But can you use the next few minutes to just tell us anything we haven't discussed that you want to emphasize about Mexico for Americans, especially Texans who want to relocate there? Just share your vision of what you think that looks like, and anything you want to talk about.
Yeah, sure. Number one is like cartels and drugs. They do exist, but they do exist in areas where the drugs are produced, and that's pretty much in the northwest part of Mexico, in
Okay.
the mountains. They they don't fight for territory in all these cities that I mentioned. So Mexico City, Querétaro, San Miguel de Allende, Puerto Vallarta, there's no disputes fighting for territory.
Okay.
And the new administration has a policy of like keeping them, in certain areas. They're not fighting them anymore as they used to do 10
They
years
have a
ago.
truce and they stay in certain
So
states.
they keep intact. They have so much power and so much money, and so they're in the business of selling drugs to Americans,
Yeah.
not to killing Mexicans or
Right.
so
Right.
that's something that is true. It's happening, but it doesn't happen in the whole country. So in that regard, you're safe. Um, if you move to Mexico, just don't pretend that this is America. It's not America. The electricity sometimes goes off, and water sometimes goes off. So not everything is perfect and beautiful.
Well, we have
There
that in Texas too, though.
so yeah, so it's as close to paradise, but it's not paradise. There's sometimes, as I said, you don't find the things that you're used to, and you have to learn to live without them. And people are friendly, sometimes too friendly. So they will invite you to their house to eat. That's for sure. But don't be surprised that they will come
They
and
also come to your house and expect to
come
be
to
fed.
your house. And
Uh,
so that's the beauty, and at the same time, boundaries. And that happens to me with when I go to Mexico. People, they treat you like family. So the boundaries sometimes they are like your
They
family.
cross over boundaries
So they
easily.
cross over
Yeah.
boundaries. So,
Yeah.
but you have to learn how to keep your boundaries, where to stop, because if you let them in, they go to your kitchen and they will open your fridge. That's for sure.
Okay. I feel like I know that because that sounds like my family. So very
Oh,
similar.
another thing is they like to party and they think that the whole world is their house. Is like they have parties all the time.
Okay.
And like
That's great.
yes, but the noise, it gets noisy from time to time. San Miguel de Allende, for instance, they have always parades, religious parades, like any time, any day. So you will hear bells ringing at 6 in the morning, because the churches, the masses and stuff, things like that we don't have in America, we have over there.
Yeah, that's like Europe as well. Like you
Yeah.
get used to the culture of the church being right in the center and there being like 500 churches right in the center of town. So,
Yes, exactly. That's Mexico.
um,
That's Mexico.
other than detailed questions about immigration issues, which Sergio's already said, definitely get an immigration lawyer if you want to go to Mexico. Does anybody else have a question that you want to put into the chat? Oh, how do we get in touch with Sergio? Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to include that in the list of documents, but you can just Google him because he's a realtor. He's easy to find. But you can also tell us, Sergio, if you want to,
Yes, my number is 972-849-2059.
972
849 2059.
2059. I'm going to put that in here. And also your email I will put on the document as well that I'm going to share on Facebook, as long as you're comfortable with everybody.
I
I
am
get
comfortable,
real
yes. I don't have privacy at all,
yeah,
my life
yeah.
is an open book.
I know that feeling so very much. Although
Yeah.
I've had a lot of maggots coming at me the last few days, so and they're really on my last nerve. I'm
Well,
walking them
yeah.
now.
And I've been asked by some friends that they want to visit, they want to move to Mexico too. And I'm probably going to do a tour this spring or summer.
Oh, nice. Oh, you'll take people
And I
who are
will,
interested in living there.
yes,
Okay.
and I will get in touch and get in touch with me if you're interested. I haven't decided the cities, but it will have to be definitely San Miguel de Allende, Mexico City to begin with, and around Mexico City, because those are to me those are the best places to move into Mexico. You have it all, and it's cheap, and it's safe.
That's great. So if no more questions, then we'll end this call. And Sergio, thank you so much for your time
My
and
pleasure.
your knowledge. We really appreciate it. I will be posting resources. I said right after, but actually, I have to get my dogs out to the dog park. So it may be later tonight. I will post some resources for everybody who's interested. So
Thank you.
thank you so much, Sergio.
Thank you. Thank
Appreciate
you very
it.
much.
Yeah. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.